is Steve, and I am your tour guide this morning. And you are, I will say it for the last time, absolutely welcome to get my attention at any point in time during the tour. I'm good for questions, I'm good for comments, suggestions, anything you need to know. Please feel free to ask me. It's not an interruption in the tour, it's what I'm here for. So please take advantage of me as much as you can. I'm a pretty smart guy. Now, I already talked about this before. Some of you got on, but this is number 1, Times Square in front of us. And, of course, the Crystal Ball and the 2012. This is the heart of the celebration of New Year's Eve in Times Square. And what I didn't say before, that I'll say to all of you now, is those hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people who pack themselves into this place on New Year's Eve, they're all from out of town. Because nobody who lives in New York City would come to Times Square for New Year's Eve, or, frankly, any other time unless we work here. So what I'll tell you all, actually, is that, you got to take some pictures of Times Square when it's all lit up, and you need to see it once. And once you've seen it, do yourself a favor, and please, I'm going to talk about all kinds of places over the next couple of hours here that you can go to spend your time that will be more interesting, less crowded, and less expensive. And so I'll talk about some of those as we go on. You'll find a lot of the tour guides who work here are a little bit prejudiced against Times Square. Maybe it's because we work here, I don't know. But most New Yorkers don't spend a lot of time here. Now, there is some interesting stuff, nevertheless. ABC Studios is over here on the left. This is where they broadcast Good Morning America in 2020. The building on the right is the former headquarters of Paramount Pictures, and today is home to the Hard Rock Cafe and the Bubblegum Shrimp Company. NASDAQ's market site is over here on the left, and we are now approaching 42nd Street. And when we cross 42nd Street, we're officially exiting Times Square, and we're entering the Garment District. Now, the Garment District is where they used to do all the textile manufacturing. And there is, Parsons New School is obviously an educational institution for people who want to get involved in the fashion design industry, appropriately located here on Fashion Avenue. Coming up on the left is the monument to the garment worker and the famous pin and button sculpture, which rests on top of the information booth here for the neighborhood in the Garment District. And all along the sidewalk there, it's kind of hard to tell the difference between the manhole covers and the medallions along the Walk of Fame. But you can if you look closely. Most of those are medallions. Now those are located along the sidewalk here on 7th Avenue. Between here and 34th Street, down at 34th Street is one of the big attractions in the neighborhood, which is, of course, Macy's department store. Macy's was first built here at Herald Square starting in 1902, and as of 1928, they took up the whole damn block between 34th and 35th Streets and 7th Avenue and Broadway. And today, there are over 2.1 million square feet of selling space in this enormous store. The whole building, folks. It's not just the first floor here or the first 3 floors. It's the whole 11-story building that makes up Macy's. Now, we will actually have a stop for Macy's. There was a big moment in the landmarks preservation movement, and after the destruction of the original Penn Station, laws were passed in the New York City area so that buildings can be declared landmarks and saved from the wrecking ball. That wasn't possible before the destruction of Penn Station. The 23,000-seat arena here at Madison Square Garden now sits on top of the entirely underground Penn Station, which still serves as a commuter station for people coming in from New Jersey and Long Island, and since 1991 has also served as the Amtrak station for New York City. To get an idea of what the original Penn Station looked like, just check out the Farley Post Office building across 8th Avenue here. The two buildings were designed to complement and match one another back in the first part of the 20th century by the architectural firm of McKim, Reed & White. You might want to remember that name because they were responsible for a lot of stuff here in Manhattan, as well as in other places around the Northeast as well. They were a very prolific architectural firm and quite famous in the early 20th century. The New York Times headquarters today is located up here on 8th Avenue. It's the big glass building with the white spire on top. The building opened in 2005 because it opened during the Great Depression. Very few people had money to rent out the office space in the early days of the Empire State Building, and some people actually referred to it as the Empty State Building as a result. And crews were hired to go up and down the stairs at night to flip the lights on and off in the office spaces to give the illusion of activity in the building. They don't have to do that anymore. It's full at all times, the Empire State Building, because it's an address of prestige now. And in fact, there are so many tenants in the Empire State Building that the United States Post Office had to give it its very own zip code. The observation deck down here at the Empire State Building is open to the Empire State Building. Coming up next. In the meantime, we have Macy's laid out here for us on our left. And again, it is the entire building. And it's located here at Herald Square. Herald Square is formed by the intersection of 34th Street and is the home of festivities at the end of the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade, as well as the annual Macy's Flower Show, which takes place just around the corner here to the left. There are various other events which take place here at Herald Square, and all kinds of other places. H&M has 2 locations here in the neighborhood: Old Navy, American Eagle, DSW, Forever 21, and one of my personal favorites here is Daffy's, actually, which is right here on the corner. Daffy's is a discount designer clothing merchandise store, and actually they sell really top-of-the-line designer clothes for about 80% off retail, and they get away with it by selling you what's left over from last year. So when the new lines come out for this year, or whatever's left over, Daffy's picks up at a bargain and sells to you at a bargain. And personally, I don't know anybody who can tell the difference between what was designed last year and this year. So they got some great stuff here. Now, we're going to go right down the street here and in front of the 102-story skyscraper covered in Indiana limestone. We'll have a stop. And what looks like it's right next to it, you can also see that building under construction down there. That's number 4, World Trade Center. Of the 4 towers that are going to be ultimately constructed down there, 2 of them complexes to be known as Madison Square Garden. And it was also the location where they invented the game of baseball. The game of baseball was invented right here in Manhattan at Madison Square Park. It's the home of the location, one of the famous locations of the Shake Shack restaurant. And just behind the park, we have the MetLife building. That's the big white tower here with clocks on the side. The MetLife building here was the tallest building in the world from 1909 to 1913. It's 700 feet tall and has 50 stories. And it is a landmark building, which is why we still call it the MetLife. We're now coming up close and personal here with the Flatiron building at 23rd Street and 5th Avenue. You can see some of the architectural details on the building here, which are quite impressive. To the right here, starting 1 block over at 6th Avenue and running between 14th and 29th Streets, is the neighborhood of Chelsea, which is a fashionable neighborhood today with lots of nightlife and great restaurants. And at the end, over there towards the Hudson River, we have the Chelsea Market and Chelsea Piers, which are probably a good place to do it, because it's centrally located and very easy to get to. There's actually a subway station right in the middle of the park, so you can come right up out of the subway and right in the heart of Union Square. It's a great place to go. People watching are always people from all walks of life making use of the open space there. At 14th Street and Broadway and 4th Avenue. From here for anybody who does want to get off and explore the neighborhood of Soho. There's some beautiful architecture here in the neighborhood. Next stop coming up is going to be at Canal Street for Chinatown and Little Italy, and again, that's where all the bargains are found. There's lots of shops along Canal Street, mom and pop shops, and this is the time of day to go to take advantage of that late morning and early afternoon, right in the heart of Chinatown. It's also the stop for Little Italy, where Mulberry Street runs right through the neighborhood and does intersect with Canal Street down here as well, just a few blocks away from our stop. Now, answer your question about rent. It's a very difficult question to answer because there are so many different factors that go into a market rate apartment, which is just has no restrictions on it. Could go if you're talking about a one-bedroom apartment, you could go anywhere from maybe $1,700 to tens of thousands of dollars, depending on where it is. If you're in a high-rise building, the higher up you go, the higher the rent is going to be. The neighborhood matters. It also matters the size of the apartment. And then there are other factors to consider. Is it a rent-controlled apartment? That keeps the rent down. Or a rent-stabilized apartment, which is different. That also keeps the rent down. Or if it's a housing authority apartment, then that's based on your income. But those are very difficult to get in. Please ignore the McDonald's down here if you come into the neighborhood, because you didn't come here to eat McDonald's. I hope. If you want to have it in China, if you want to have it in Times Square, do so with my blessing. But if you come to Chinatown and eat McDonald's, you're doing something wrong. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a stop right here. This is for Chinatown and Little Italy at Canal Street. If you are getting off here, have a spectacular afternoon, and the rest of us will leave you momentarily. Down at the World Trade Center site, which have nothing to do with the World Trade Center or September 11th. One of them is Century 21 Discount Department Store. Is just a block away. So if you're here to shop, Century 21, you can spend all day down here. It's at Broadway and 14th Street. The other thing that's easily accessible down here from our next stop is the access to the Brooklyn Bridge Promenade.